So, thank you for coming along to our chat at Cycling with Sprogs. I'm Karen, and I run the family cycling website Cycle Sprog, along with my family. So we're here today. We've got Chris, and then we've got Nicholas, who's 12, and we've got Tristan, who is just turned 10. He was 10 on Friday. Okay. So, they've put us in the New to Cycling Hub. So is there anybody here who is totally new to cycling, who's never ridden a bike before? Or am I talking to a team of seasoned pros who cycle all the time? I think I am, aren't I? So that's good. So we're not going to start with how to ride a bike. What we're going to do instead is talk about our journey as to how we've cycled from when our children were very small through to what we're getting up to now. Okay? So we started almost 12 years ago when Nicholas was very small. And Chris and I used to cycle a lot before we had the kids. And then when Nicholas came along, we didn't know anybody else at all who cycled with kids. So we didn't cycle with Nicholas either. It was just something we thought we had to stop cycling when the kids came along. And then we made friends with a family, and we'll feature them a bit later on, called Catherine and Richard. And they'd had a little girl called Alice. And they were massive adventure cyclists before they had Alice. And they told us about rear bike seats and how they were carrying on cycling with Alice. And so we rushed out and we bought one, and we put Nicholas in it, and it meant that we could cycle all over the place all of a sudden. So we were commuting with it, and we were going out at the weekends. So is there anybody here who's had a rear bike seat? Have any of you guys been in one of those? Excellent. Yeah, they're great, aren't they? So for a couple of years, that's how we managed, and it was all going very well. And then we had another Sprog. So Tristan came along. This is him a little bit older, but when he came along, obviously we couldn't just keep using the rear bike seat. So our next purchase was a trailer. So has anybody here used a trailer? You used a trailer as well? Hey, excellent. So we used a trailer for several years, and we used it every single day. We used it for going to, we killed two. Yeah, we killed 2 trailers. Every single day, to the playgroup, to school, shopping, and I've been back through every single photo from that period, and I've scrolled through every single one of them, and we have not got a single photo of a trailer. We used it every day, and we haven't got a single photo. At that point, we weren't running a website about family cycling, otherwise I'd have taken thousands of the photos. So here instead, we've got a photo of Alice, who I mentioned before, in a trailer. And she's there demonstrating that you can fit in a load of shopping. I think she's sitting on a tent as well, because that's them. At the same time as we were pootling around our neighbourhood, they were out doing adventure cycling. I think they are actually in Holland at the time there. So they're sort of at the other extreme of family cycling. And if you are interested, they've got written quite a lot of stuff on our website, but we're nowhere near as adventurous as them. So, do you know what happens when it gets to, when you get too big for a trailer? What happens? Does anybody know?
You get a bike.
You get a bike, yes. But the first thing that happens is your mum or your dad can't pedal anymore. So that's what happened with us. The boys just got too heavy, and I couldn't physically carry them anymore with the trailer. So we had to think of other ways, because at the time, the boys were too little to go on the road. So we moved to various combinations here, and we got a front seat. So has anybody here been in a front seat? Just Tristan. Front seats are good. They're quite good as you get a little bit older. And we also had a tag-along. Has anybody had a tag-along? Yeah, excellent. So they were really good, and that's how we got around getting to school and preschool, playgroup, etc. for a number of years. And this is one of our favourite setups here, front seat and tag-along. That setup did us for years. And this was around about the time we had some ideas about setting up our website, so there's a few more photos. We started snapping a bit more of things. And the tag-along took us everywhere. It was a real workhorse for years and years. And literally, whatever the weather, we were using it. You can see there Nicholas going to school on the tag-along in the snow. As I said before, we didn't know anybody else who was cycling, so you can imagine how crazy people thought we were going to school by bike. And then when we turned up in the snow by bike, they really thought we were completely had a couple of screws loose, I think. But it just shows what you can do once you sort of commit to cycling with your kids. And you can see there we go to the park, we go to football as well, using the tag-along. There's other ways in which you can cycle with kids. Now, we've got here a wee-hoo behind there. That's not ours, but it just happily parked up there. Has anybody been in a wee-hoo? Woo! There's a lot lots of people, lots of different ways, isn't there? So we never used one of those, but we have used a cargo bike when we were on holiday in Amsterdam. Have you just been on one? Oh. Cargo bikes 12 years ago, or maybe probably 10 years ago, when we'd have been thinking about using one, weren't around as much, and they certainly weren't the e-assist ones. I think if we were starting out again now, we would probably go cargo bike, e-assist cargo bike, and sort of use it as a set instead of a car, but it wasn't something we considered at the time, and as I say, we didn't know anybody else who cycled, let alone had a cargo bike. I think it would have pushed the residents of our neighbourhood over the edge if we turned up on one of those. And again, Amsterdam is one of our family adventures. If you've not been to Amsterdam as a family, it is the best place to go. You can cycle absolutely everywhere. It's absolutely fabulous, and you can rent kids' bikes of all different shapes and sizes, and tandems and cargo bikes, and whatever setup you want. It's absolutely fabulous. Round about this time, we thought we ought to get a little bit more adventurous, given our friends Catherine and Richard were cycling all over the place with their kids. So we were on holiday in Cornwall, and we decided to rent some bikes while we were on holiday, and do a bike ride. And we thought we'd do what's called the Coast to Coast in Cornwall. Has anybody here done that? Have you done that? Well, it sounds impressive. It's not actually. It's an 11-mile route that goes from the north of Cornwall to the south of Cornwall. So it's not that far. And as you can see, this is us at the start. We didn't even start at the coast because the bike rental place was quite a few miles inland. So we were probably trying to ride about 8 miles there, 8 miles back. But we didn't quite make it. We kind of got 3/4 of the way, and then we came across an ice cream shop. So Chris cycled on, went to the coast, took a photo, came back and showed the rest of us while we were sitting there eating ice cream. Yeah. So we then turned round, and as we'd gone there, we hadn't realised it was just slightly downhill all the way. So when we turned round, what happens when you turn round and you go back? It's slightly uphill all the way, which was really hard work, yes. And the moaning's, well, they never moan. These boys have never once moaned on a cycle ride, I can tell you. Never once, have you boys? So we were struggling to get back before the rental place shut. We'd set out early in the morning, and we suddenly realised at 5 o'clock the rental place closed, and we just about, Chris and Tristan, Tristan in the rear seat, had to do a mad dash, sprint to the finish to try and get there, to stop them shutting up before our, the rental place shut and charged us the second day. So we learnt a lot on that. We learnt a lot about the need to keep your kids fueled up, the need to look out for how far you go and the gradients and how to deal with moany children. But we absolutely loved it. It was the first taste of us going somewhere different, cycling somewhere new. And we got a bit of a bug after that. And we did actually go back a couple of years later, and we did the entire coast to coast. That's us starting at the sea, and we rocked up after lunch. We rode all the way to the coast, turned around and came back, and we're back in time for tea. So it really is incredible in a couple of years how quickly the kids grow and what you're able to do with them. And I think if you just keep going with them over that period, you can then open up a whole raft of things that you can do with them as they get older. Right, so until this point, you'll notice that Tristan had been pulled or pushed or carried all the time, which is a great life if you're able to have that done to you. So he was quite a late starter in terms of learning to cycle, but then suddenly he learned, and that was it, we were away. And he's not looked back since, really. He's been pedalling ever since. But what that meant was we had to try and work out how we were able to get around with a child who was used to riding by himself, and then a new one who was on sort of a little Isla bike, and how do we manage that? So we got sent a Follow Me tandem. Has anybody used a Follow Me tandem? Yay! Someone's used a Follow Me. Excellent. And this is a great contraption when you've got little ones who aren't quite confident enough to ride on a bike on the road. And you can see here the bike connects to the adult bike, and you sort of pull them along until you get where you want to go, and then you can unhook them and they can ride by themselves. So it's really good for when you come to hilly areas or when you're on roads that are too busy for you to cycle with. So again, the Follow Me was in use for quite a few years. And then at this point I'm just going to stop because it's a bit boring looking at just our boys. So These are some of the cycle sprogs that we've come across, and some of the girls who cycle, because it's not just about our boys. So we've got some of the girls there, and we've got loads and loads of articles on our website. And we've actually got Emma here, who's written a lot of articles for us about cycling in Yorkshire. So if anybody is interested in learning where to ride in Yorkshire with your kids, we have got literally most of them. I think most of the family cycling routes in Yorkshire covered. And then we've got lots of advice on kids' bikes and other routes to go to, and we have quite an active Facebook group, Facebook page as well, which is where most of these photos have come from. So, back to our story. When they've got a little bit bigger and they're sort of riding by themselves, it's all about having fun with kids at that age. So these are some of the fun places we've been to. Does anybody know where this is? Anybody seen that? Yeah. Kielder, yeah, well done. Yeah. This is the Big Wooden Head at Kielder. Kielder's great. There's loads of different rides there for different ages, from some nice gentle ones for little kids through to some really exciting red graded mountain bike routes. And there's all these art installations. So you're riding along and you suddenly come across things like this. So this is the Big Wooden Head. And then this one was in, does anyone know where that is? That's in Winlatter Forest. No, it's not, it's in Grisdale Forest, in Cumbria. And this one, we were on a bike ride, and we stopped to have a little rest, and the boys went off up a footpath. They left their bikes, went up a footpath, and they came back going, "Mummy, Mummy, I found a living room." And I was like, "Yes, okay." No, we have found a living room, and it's got somewhere to sit down. So I was thinking, yeah, they've got very active imaginations, these boys, at the age they were. So I thought, oh, there'll be a rock that they can sit on. And we're like, "No, you must come and look. We found a living room." So I was like, okay, walk along the path, and there is a room with a chair, a table, a TV, even a lamp. I love the lamp. Just there, just off the beaten track, and it's not marked on any map. So if you go to Grisdale Forest, you've got to try and find it. I'm not sure we'd ever find it again. It's not marked on any map. So, so basically, most of our cycling at that point was on mainly off-road, but also occasionally we got to go on-road, and here we are, the Tour de France came to Yorkshire. Did anybody see that? I'm guessing you guys saw that, yeah? And my sister lives just off the route that it took, and it's called Crag Vale, so it's the longest continual hill in England. It's 5.5 miles of constant uphill. There's no flat or no descent, it's completely uphill for 5.5 miles. And they shut the road off really nice and early in the morning, so we got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and we went and rode up this. Tristan was 5, and he did it with no stops, or no brakes. Nicholas was able to stop halfway up and get a bacon butty in the pub halfway up, and then carry on and meet us at the top. But it was absolutely fabulous experience, with the people cheering all the way, and they couldn't quite believe that this little lad on a little 20-inch wheel bike was getting up the hill. When we got to the top, it's great, you get 5.5 miles up a hill. You have to turn around to go 5.5 miles down a hill, and so suddenly you're there at the top with a 5-year-old, and it's like point and go. Maybe not the best thing. So that's where the Follow Me tandem came in really useful, because we had to hook him up and then at least control the descent on the way back down. So that was in 2014. Less than 3 years later, we're in the Alps. And we went to Col de l'Autre, which is on the Tour de France route, and we actually got taken up in a van all the way to the top, and we were on mountain bikes, and there's a great off-road track, and at that point we just pointed them straight down the hill and was like, "See you in 30 miles, and that was a 30-miler straight downhill. So again, just emphasising how much they improve in such a short time, from needing to be pulled down to just basically off they go. This is in Canada, so some of our most exciting riding, having said we didn't do anything exciting, our very exciting friends, Catherine and Richard, decided to go and live in Canada, so we had to go and visit them. So we have done a little bit of exciting stuff. And we went out there, we've been out there twice actually, and I'm not going to go into it because it would be an hour-long talk just to talk about what we did in Canada. But these are just a few of the snaps. We went to Vancouver. Vancouver is a really nice family-friendly cycling city, within reason. It's not the best city we went to, but it is quite good. The best place we went was Portland. Portland is a huge... well, huge, very, very big city, so it's got huge numbers of motorways and freeways and all this sort of stuff, but you can cycle everywhere. It's got some of the best infrastructure we've seen outside of Amsterdam, so if you are ever able to get over there, it's great. And it's also the American headquarters of Isla Bikes, so they very kindly offered us the loan of some bikes while we were there. We went to a fabulous place called Bend, which has got probably one of the best rides we've ever done, called Whoops. And it's a very, very dusty and hot place. I think it was about 35 degrees the day we were there. So very different from cycling in the UK, trying to keep hydrated and warm. And then this is Montana, where they never, ever, ever get any British tourists. They were so surprised to find somebody from Britain coming to visit them. They have got some of the just huge numbers of mountain bike trails, and they call it Big Sky Big Sky County. You can see why. And then this is our absolute favourite place we've ever cycled anywhere in the world. It is called Fernie, and it is a very small place in British Columbia, a couple of hours drive from Calgary. And it was so good, and that's why we had to go back the second year, so we could go back and ride the trails there again. But when you're in Fernie, you have to have these on your bikes. And you have to do this as you go along. Does anybody guess why you have to have these on your bikes? Very important. Bears. Bears, absolutely. There are bears in Fernie. Not bears that look like this. Proper big bears. So it's quite, as a parent, it is quite stressful, because I don't know if any of you have got, you're all quite young, but when they get to kind of this age, they're off doing stuff that you can't keep up with. So you're constantly riding along and you're trying to go, where is my child? What are they doing? You're trying to ride the very difficult trail that's in front of you. So I find it quite hard in the UK. And then you're doing that, where's my child, what's the trail doing, can I ride this trail? And then you're thinking, there might be a grizzly bear behind that tree. And it is quite stressful, but you have to make loads of noise. So it was the one time we actively encouraged moaning, because the more noise they can make on the trail, and these, the better. And then we did see somebody who had a sound system attached to their bike, sort of an old ghetto blaster, and they were going really high up on the trails, and they were just pumping out music really loud. Because the second time we were there, the bears had been down low. The first time we were there, they hadn't had any sightings, but the second time they'd actually seen them quite recently in the town. So it was a little bit stressful. But if you're ever out in British Columbia, I would really recommend getting some bear belts. And you can buy mace spray as well that we were carrying, in case you do come across one.
Yeah, I mean, we get emails all the time.
So another exciting adventure we had was we went and stayed in a Mongolian yurt this summer. And we cycled from there, but unfortunately it wasn't quite as exotic as it looks, because the Mongolian yurt was actually in the Yorkshire Dales. But we were out there a bit closer to home this year, and we cycled the new Swale Trail, which has opened up this summer in the Yorkshire Dales, which is a brilliant ride. And again, we've fully written that up on our website, but I highly recommend that to anybody looking for a bit of a different adventure. Of course, we've been talking mainly about off-road up to now, but does anybody here ride road bike, skinny tyres? Yeah, that's something that we've got a lot more into over the past couple of years as the boys have been able to get out on the road. We're lucky we live in Cumbria, so we've got some amazing roads for the kids to ride on with not much traffic. And Nicholas and I have been riding very frequently on the road for about 3 years, and then Tristan has been more recently been able to come along as well. This was one of our first road rides 2 summers ago as a family. We did about 20 miles down the Kempmere Valley. More recently, Nicholas and I did our first sportive, a 28-miler, proper adult sportive in Cumbria, and I think we came in the top 20 in the 28-mile race. So I'm going to have a problem, because as he gets older, I'm just not going to be able to keep up. So I think our website is suddenly going to start focusing on e-bikes, not e-bikes as the must-have accessory for family cycling, because I'm really struggling. Tristan, you have to be 12 to do the sportive, so Nicholas had just turned 12 when it happened. So Tristan obviously wasn't old enough. So we've also been doing family sportive. We did this was a couple of weeks ago, the Ride in the Lakes family sportive. First time this is run, it's going to become an annual event if anybody fancies doing it in future years. And they were the first to cross the line, their cycling kit. So as they get older, it's just that having done this cycling is opening up more and more experiences for them. So they've got the off-road, they've got the on-road stuff. And then they get to do things which I've never done. Has anybody here of any age ridden at the velodrome? Have you? It must be awesome. I've never had the opportunity. Does anybody know what is different about a velodrome bike to a normal bike? It's, yeah? It is. It's got drop handlebars, yeah, but it has no brakes. No brakes. So how do you stop? You have to use your legs, don't you? You have to use the power of your legs to stop. So I'm too scared to have a go. But this is the boys, and you start off. They've been going a couple of times now, and you can see Nicholas is right up at the top now. So you just sort of have to sit there and watch, take a big breath.
So 3.5 miles, 5 days a week. And then
so that's just basically a very quick whistle-stop tour of the sorts of things we've done. Hopefully it's given you a little bit of inspiration as to the sorts of things you can do. And if you keep going and you keep going, you go through the difficult years and then you pop out the other end. And they're off and you're trying to keep up. So I thought I'd end with just a couple of tips. People always say to me, what are your top tips about cycling with kids of different ages? So my tip number one is when they're little, or even when they're not little, when you're trying something for the first time, leave them at home. So here we are, here's me looking a little bit nervous, trying the follow me tandem, getting used to the extra weight, and then you get used to it, and then you can do it with them, you're a lot more confident. When we tried the bike seat for the first time, with the rear bike seat, we took out a big bag of big potatoes first, put potatoes in the back, cycled with them. Top tip number 2 is to teach your Sprog to clean their own bike. So who cleans their own bike at the end of their bike ride? Do you? Does it? Every single time? And none of the rest of you do? Well, parents, I would really recommend that you go do this. This is Nicholas, aged about 5, cleaning his own bike, and there's Chris teaching him how to do it. This is Chris cleaning both bikes, very muddy, and they don't even know where they are. So we've got this one completely gone. So I would really recommend that you instill how to clean the bikes when they're very early here. Right, next one.
You've got to get these guys.
Next one, top tip 3, is work on your own skills and fitness while they're little. And this is something that is really coming home to roost now with us. The boys are now really good mountain bikers, and I'm having to pay for mountain bike lessons to learn how to keep up with them. And it's quite scary. So I wish I'd done a little bit more while they were younger. And then also in terms of fitness, I was very, very fit when I was pulling the trailer. You end up with thighs of steel when you're using the trailer. And then when they were on the little wheels, I kind of tailed off my fitness a little bit because we were going a lot slower. And now, like I say, I'm seriously considering e-bikes because I just can't keep up with them. So I am getting fitter all the time, but I would have liked to have maybe maintained my fitness a bit more.
We go in and do launch events.
And in terms of skill, here we've got Tristan. You know, that is a right angle, and somehow he manages to ride around that. I've got no idea how he does that. But, you know, I would hate to be able to do that.
Yeah, I can take some tips if you want.
Top tip 4, if you've got one, I'd recommend joining your local cycle club. And then you can, if you can get involved in it, you can form it to do what you want it to be. So our cycle club is really new. It's only been going for 2.5 years. And we've made it into a much bigger club. It's got about 70 members now, but we do things like we've encouraged people to train up as mountain bike leaders so other people can take our kids out for a bike ride, which is really good, and also means they can ride together. You get to an age where they don't really want to ride with mum and dad so much, so it's really good if they've got friends who cycle. And we also run some races as well, which goes down really well. And then our final tip is, what is the one thing you should always take with you on a bike ride? Anybody got any ideas?
Yeah, it's just like, so that's
what is the one thing you should never forget?
Interesting kind of store with that, in that many
water.
It's
a good one. It's a very good one, and you should always take water. Food. Yes, you're almost, yeah, it is food, but even more than food, what type of food should we take? Sweeties, yes! Can you get the sweeties, Nicholas? These are the sweets we take on a bike ride. This is our choice, and would you like to But if everybody wants to come up and get one, you can tell Nicholas what is your favourite bike ride or what bike you ride, and then he will give you one of our favourite sweets to take away.
You go.
Oh. Never ever forget the sweets. If you forget the sweets on a bike ride, you are doomed. Absolutely doomed. So, thank you very much everybody for coming today and listening to our little talk. We are on social. We're on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you want to follow us, thank you very much.